everybody, my name is Dallas and you are watching the Fantasy Football Outpost. It has been an exciting week. Lots and lots of stuff has happened now. The training camps are flying open, so let's go ahead and get started with some news. Right off the bat, not good news for any Cowboys fans or anybody looking to draft Ezekiel Elliott. Rumors are that the Cowboys and Ezekiel Elliott are not close on anything in their negotiation with the contract. Now, I personally don't know what he intends or how far he plans on going. I'd like to think this is more of his way of sending a message hoping that it happens, and then he'll show up right before the season starts and then pretty much tell them, look, that was your warning, get me an extension this year or it's going to be a lot worse next year. Jerry Jones came out with a comment saying that you do not need a Emmitt Smith type of running back to win a Super Bowl. I agree with that to an extent, but I'd like to see who is going to take his place. Now, Cowboys fans, including myself, don't worry. They signed Alfred Morris. All is saved. I don't think anyone takes that seriously. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. For those of you that are a little bit worried about the fact that he may be a little out of shape when he shows up, he is in Cabo at the San Lucas facility that he went to back when he faced his 6-game suspension. Cowboys center Travis Frederick says he has been there before and that he has an absolutely fantastic setup and that he is not concerned at all that Ezekiel Elliott's going to be out of shape. Moving on, Michael Thomas got paid. He decided to hold out a little bit, just like all of the players seem to be doing these days, and it paid off for him. He got signed to a 5-year, $100 million contract. It was stated that he wanted to hit that $20 million a year mark. He did so right on the dot. I would assume there's some here and there. That being said, he's got $61 million guaranteed, and he is now the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. A lot of people think that just set the benchmark for what Julio Jones is going to get signed. My guess is you're going to see something like 5 years, $105 million, something along those lines, where he'll be at 21 or $102.5 million, to where he's sitting at 20.5 every year. That being said, they're just going to outdo it a little bit because everybody plays that game where they look and say, hey, he got paid that to them. Why am I not worth that? I should be worth more to you guys. And then that's basically how it goes. So it'll be interesting to see how the Julio contract pans out for this. Another one to keep your eyes on is the Amari Cooper contract. That being said, with how the Dak and Zeke contracts are going, I am not concerned that you're going to see Amari Cooper get paid somewhere in the $20 million. I don't think he'll be anywhere near that. Next on the list, Golden Tate is facing a 4-game suspension for violating the NFL's performance-enhancing drugs policy. Now, it is stated that he was taking prescription given to him by a fertility specialist, and he did not realize that it had a substance on the list of violations. He immediately quit taking it and reported it to the NFL, so that might help him a little bit. But from my understanding, it does specifically state whether they are aware or not that they will still be suspended. So he's facing 4 games. I think with the way he handled it, he might be able to get it reduced to 2, considering it was all an accident, but they are very strict on it. So only time will tell on how that one pans out. That being said, the Giants are spread really thin right now after Sterling Shepard breaking his thumb, Odell leaving last year. The team is spread very thin. Eli does not have many options to throw to, so look for Saquon to get even more action. On the injury side of things, AJ Green has suffered an ankle sprain. He had a minor surgery, and it is believed for him to miss a few games this year. They originally said he might be available week 1, but they came out and corrected that and stated that it may be a few weeks before he's actually ready to go, which is a little bit more realistic. That being said, that only raised Tyler Boyd's draft hype, probably to the point where I will no longer be drafting him. I was perfectly comfortable with him in the 6th. He did have a great breakout year last year, and I think he's here to stay. That being said, in redraft leagues, he probably just skyrocketed all the way to the 4th round, if not even the 3rd, because of how the hype trains go. So he'll probably be a bit too expensive for me. That being said, if he stays where he's at, I am all for Tyler Boyd, and he's going to be great. I just do not like reaching for players, but for those of you that do and are really excited about him, Tyler Boyd's opportunity is even better this year. I like to have him on my team even more so than AJ Green, and now with the injury, that only solidified that for me. And so something to keep an eye on. Hopefully AJ Green's all right. He'll come back, because Tyler Boyd did actually play even better when AJ Green was on the field. So for those of you that didn't know that, it also could end up backfiring. I don't see it backfiring, though, for Tyler Boyd. I think he'll be fine. That being said, AJ Green out a couple weeks from that ankle sprain. He should be okay ultimately, though, but it's AJ Green. You don't know if he's going to be able to sustain it all year or get hurt again, so only time will tell. Another injury that had a few people scared was Derrick Henry was spotted in a boot, and nobody really knew what it was. They came out and told us it was from a calf strain and that he's actually okay. The team's just being extra cautious and trying to take things slow. So hopefully that doesn't hit him too hard and lets him get back out there before the season starts to get some work in. That being said, it doesn't sound like it's anything too serious to be concerned about. Hopefully that puts him back at a more realistic ADP, though, because he was starting to move up. And I personally am not interested in Derrick Henry in any of my leagues. But for those of you that are interested in him and were concerned about the injury or had already drafted him, sounds like he's going to be just fine. So it's not something you should worry about. But I definitely think you should keep an eye on it just in case in the back of your mind. But that being said, it seems like he's okay. This may make Dion Lewis a little bit more valuable. I personally like Dion for his value with how late he is for a PPR option, just to kind of stash, hoping he may turn into something. But for the most part, everybody's super excited about Derrick Henry maybe breaking out this year from the 2 great games he had last year. So we'll see. I personally am not on that train, but absolutely something to keep an eye on. But from what I'm hearing, it's not that serious. Another one that had a lot of us holding our breath was Tyreek Hill. Went down during practice and had to be examined. Everybody was a little worried as to what happened. Turns out it was just a bruised quad, and they believe he's going to be fine. He'll probably take it a little easy over the next week or so, but from my understanding, it's nothing to be worried about, and Tyreek Hill is still just fine. Dolphins head coach Brian Flores, when asked about the QB battle, said that Ryan Fitzpatrick is clearly leading the way. So for those of you that are interested in taking that late round shot at Fitzpatrick just for some of that Fitz magic again, then he should be good to go at the beginning of the year. That being said, I do not think the Dolphins will be a good team this year, so I think regardless of who ends up starting, they will not be competing, and so ultimately I think Josh Rosen is going to come out because they're going to need to see what he can do and determine whether they should end up doing what Arizona did as well and take a quarterback even though they just got Josh Rosen. That's kind of why I think they waited and were able to wait long enough to offer less for Josh Rosen. I personally think he can do it, but he's just got to have the right situation and the right opportunity. So I think he'll get that this year. Whether he'll be able to capitalize on it or not, I have no idea. None of us do, but we shall see. I do know as of right now, though, Ryan Fitzpatrick is set to be the starter on that team, and apparently it's not close. So something to keep an eye on there as well. And we'll see if we'll have a little bit more of that Fitz magic this year. He was great in fantasy, not so great for the actual team itself. But that being said, that's something most of us do not care about unless the Buccaneers were your team. So who knows, who may see some of that. Maybe the Dolphins wide receivers see a little bit more because of that at first, but I don't see it sticking around. I do see them end up starting Josh Rosen at some point to see what he can do. So this kind of is one of those things where it is what it is. The Oakland Raiders believe Josh Jacobs, their rookie running back that they drafted in the first round, will be the rookie of the year. So that's something to make a lot of us sit even more comfortably with the fact that he is absolutely going to be the workhorse 3-down back. If they're expecting that from him, you know he's getting the workload. So that it only makes you even more comfortable drafting him, especially at his ADP. Somebody that could potentially finish a top 10 running back is sitting in the 3rd round, 4th round, depending on your league. And I absolutely think he's a steal if he's getting that opportunity. So it's something to keep your eyes on. I don't think he's a very risky pick at all. I think he's actually a pretty safe one, especially in that round. Absolutely can snag him as your RB2 and could finish as an RB1. So I think that is a no-brainer. So for those of you having a little bit of doubt as to whether you think he would get all the work and it's not just a bunch of hype noise, sounds like Oakland Raiders believe he will as well, considering they think he'll be the rookie of the year. Only time will tell. It's easier said than done, but it's pretty exciting to know that's what they expect. Last one is one that hit me a little bit because I had him as number 8 in my top 10 running backs. Damian Williams tweaked his hamstring. From my understanding, it's not that big of a deal. Everything's fine. They're kind of resting him right now, and there's still plenty of time for him to come back and be fine from this. So I am not backing off on him at all, but it is something to keep your eye on because if it gets closer and it happens again, or he seems to be slower or not quite putting all of his effort in because of it, then you can go ahead and scratch him as a pretty risky pick. But if this is all it is and he's perfectly fine, just like Dalvin Cook, if we don't see anything else, I don't think there's anything to worry about here. But it's worth mentioning, especially considering how high he's going in drafts. If there's somebody that you like better that might be a safer pick, you might want to go that route. But as of right now, I don't think this is anything to read too much into. Just something that with a little bit more time, we'll be able to see if it's actually serious or not. But everything I'm hearing is that it is not. So that's it for our news segment. Now let's go ahead and move on over to our topic of today, the top 10 wide receivers in PPR format. Now, just like we did in the top 10 running backs, we're going to go ahead and give you Sleeper's top 15 based on their ADPs at the moment. I do think Sleeper app has the most accurate ADPs. I think it's the best one to go off of. That being said, use whatever you're comfortable with, but this is what they have, and I'll always try to line this up so you guys can kind of compare to what mine ends up being versus what the public is thinking. So we're going to go ahead and go through these. Based on Sleeper's ADPs, their number 1 is DeAndre Hopkins. Number 2 is Davante Adams. Number 3 is Julio Jones. Number 4 is Michael Thomas. Number 5 is Tyreek Hill. Number 6 is Odell Beckham Jr. Number 7 is Juju Smith-Schuster. 8 is Antonio Brown. 9 is Mike Evans. 10 is Keenan Allen. 11 is Adam Thielen. 12 is T.Y. Hilton. 13 is Amari Cooper. 14 is A.J. Green. Again, this is before the injury has fully affected ADPs. And number 15 is Stephon Diggs. So now that we know what the ADPs are for the top 15 wide receivers, let's go ahead and get into my personal top 10 wide receivers that I feel that they will finish the year on. Now, I just want to go ahead and throw out a little bit of a disclosure. When I came out with my top 10 running backs, I did receive a few comments that they felt that it fell a little bit too in line with what the main ADPs and stuff go with the top 10, and that it didn't have very many reaches at all. That being said, these are the ADPs for a reason. Most people aren't dumb that do this. They do know what they're talking about. I have a few that change, but I will tell you something right from the beginning here. You will always 100% get exactly what I believe and exactly how I feel. If it lines up perfectly or they're every single one hot takes, it is 1000% what I feel is going to happen. And you can basically take that with confidence, knowing that I'm not leading you on to something, and use that combined with what you already know to make the best decision possible. So right off the bat, number 1, as a lot of you probably assumed, is DeAndre Hopkins. So like I did with the running backs, I have a positive and negative for every single one of them. The positive that I have for DeAndre Hopkins is he has the best hands in the league. It does not matter what situation he is in, where you throw the football, who's throwing it to him. DeAndre Hopkins seems like he catches everything that's in his remote vicinity, even some things that aren't. He is absolutely phenomenal and is one of the most dependable wide receivers in the NFL, and he's got a great quarterback in Deshaun Watson, and he's got some help now if they can stay healthy, and I think all of that together has DeAndre Hopkins poised for a very, very good season, one that I think is going to have him finishing as the number 1 overall wide receiver. The downside to DeAndre Hopkins is Will Fuller and Keke Coutee are currently healthy, and so we'll see how long that lasts, but while they are healthy, they both tend to take quite a bit of the action. That being said, DeAndre Hopkins is an absolute beast, and he's going to demand the football, and he is going to get his before anybody else gets theirs. And we've seen Will Fuller, I don't think he can play more than half a season. Correct me if I'm wrong if he has. I've not went and looked every year that he's played to see, but he does not play very many games at all. Keke Coutee last year was a very, very high PPR target, but he didn't seem to affect Hopkins that much. And so we'll see. He did end up getting hurt as well, so you have some injury concerns. But ultimately, Tom will see if those end up actually hurting him or not. I think that's the only way he falls out of the number 1 spot down to like 2 or 3, maybe even 4, is if he has too much eaten by the other 2 or just generally the rest of the offense. But I don't think you have to worry about that. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to finish as the number 1 wide receiver this year, and that's why I have him here. So number 2 on my list is Davante Adams. I absolutely loved Davante Adams last year. I had him on my team, and those of you that did have him on your team knew he was by far the most consistent wide receiver in the NFL. I felt like every time I turned on a Packers game, the first drive of every single Packers offense was driving down the field and throwing a touchdown to Davante Adams. Doesn't matter what happened the rest of the game, he usually ended up finishing about 19 to 24 points every single week. You could almost count on him to give you 20. It was with the occasional of him blowing up and getting you 35. So I absolutely loved having him on my team last year. And as much work that he put in, some great news that we heard from Aaron Rodgers was that after watching film, he's seen that Davante Adams was just too open too many times, and he wants to get him the ball even more. So one can only hope that that means he is going to absolutely eat this season, and he has a very good chance of finishing number one. I like DeAndre Hopkins' chances a little bit better. That's why I have Davante Adams at 2. Nonetheless, Davante Adams is poised to be insane. He finished the number 2 wide receiver last year in PPR formats, and I think he's going to do it again this year. But like I said, only time will tell, and we'll see. He definitely could finish the number 1. I love his consistency, and I think he's one of the safest picks you can make this year at the wide receiver position. Now, the negatives that I have for Davante Adams is pretty simple and pretty straightforward. It's that Geronimo Allison being moved to the slot and MVS are both looking really good this offseason. Tons of people are excited for them. They're looking like they're getting even better. Aaron Rodgers is liking what he's seeing, especially out of MVS. And so they could end up eating into some of those targets that might be flying Davante Adams' way. But at the same time, this might actually end up helping Davante Adams because that means people are going to have to pay respect to other places on the field. They already have to an extent because it's Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball and he can throw anybody open. But when you also add the fact that they're talented receivers as well, one can only hope that that's going to pan out great to get the other two late. So it's kind of hit and miss on this. This may end up helping Davante Adams, but I think if anything hurts him, it'll be them. But we'll see. So my number 3 wide receiver, I've got a little bit of an asterisk next to him. He is definitely going to finish one of the top receivers. He finished number 1 in a bunch of formats last year. Number 3 is Tyreek Hill. Now, a lot of you are going to be either shocked or agreeing with this because some of you may have moved him all the way up to your number 1 spot now that he's not going to be suspended. Some of you still have him down at the 4th or 5th spot. I have him at the 3rd, but I'm going to explain to you in a second why I would rather take my number 4 receiver over Tyreek Hill. So right off the bat, the positive that we have for Tyreek Hill is he is explosive. Out of nowhere, he can drop you 40 points in PPR format, and he is absolutely the reason you will put your foot on someone's throat in a week in fantasy just because of him alone. Not counting if the rest of your team does decent, it's just going to blow it out of the water. Now, the problem and the negative that I have for Tyreek Hill is his inconsistency. He is literally a mirror of what Davante Adams is. They both can put up great weeks. Adams can't quite put up the explosive weeks that Tyreek Hill can. Who knows, he might this year. But that being said, he is super consistent. Tyreek Hill, on the other hand, he may get you 15, he may get you 10, or he may get you 40. You never know what you're going to get. And from the luck that I've seen people have is he gets you 40 when the rest of your team is killing it, and he just so happens to get you 10 those weeks you lose by 3, where you just were hoping something else went his way. If any safety stopped the over-the-top passes, it seemed that he didn't do a whole lot at all. And the reason he'd still finish with 10 is occasionally they would get that one breakaway for 60 yards and a catch, and so you're looking at 7 off of that alone, and you add a few more catches to it, you're sitting there, but he didn't get any of his over-the-top touchdowns, sometimes multiple in the same week. And his inconsistency is just too much for me. And that's why we're going to go ahead and move on to number 4, and why I would draft him over Tyreek Hill. My number 4 wide receiver might have a lot of you surprised. It is Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, before we get into him, I'm going to explain why I said I would take him over Tyreek Hill. I do believe Tyreek Hill will finish the season as the number 3 wide receiver points-wise, but the journey that you're going to have to take with him to get there, I don't think is going to be worth it. Because, yes, he will win you some weeks by a large margin, but those weeks you really need him and he only gets 10, he may also lose you some weeks. And so you definitely don't want somebody that's going to be that wishy-washy, especially somebody that you're going to have to take in the first round, I would presume. Maybe some of them he slip into the second. That's where he becomes more worth it to me. But I personally, even though I think he'll finish higher, I would rather take Juju Smith-Schuster, who I have as my number 4 wide receiver this year, over Tyreek Hill, just because I think he'll be a lot more consistent, and you won't have that stress every week of, is this the week he's going to go off, or is he going to let me down? And you're sitting there biting your nails the entire Chiefs game every single time because you don't know what he's going to do. And at any given second, it could blow up and he catches a pass way down the field, or that catch may never even show up, and you're left at the end of the game disappointed that he only got you like 10 points. So getting into Juju Smith-Schuster, a lot of people might be thrown off by my pick having him here at 4 ahead of some other guys. I am super hyped on Juju this year. Some people are really hyped for him and other people are down on him, both for the same reason. Antonio Brown is gone. Now, I know he finished top 5 last year in targets and had a tremendous amount of yards, and so a lot of people are thinking, what more can he get? So, if you completely roll out the targets alone, even though Antonio Brown is leaving a massive hole, and I do think some of them may even trickle over to Juju a little more, but that being said, even if he goes down in catches, if he stays where he at or he goes up, the part I think where Juju is going to benefit is 15 touchdowns are gone. Antonio Brown had 15 touchdowns last year, and I think Juju's going to see a little bit more because of that. I think that's where he's going to see the benefit. I think that's where he's going to rise. Too many people are focusing on the catches and the yards, thinking that he's going to stay where he's at or move down the list because they don't see how he could do any better. I think he does better in the touchdown range, and that's really ultimately what's going to determine whether he finishes 4th, where I have him, or he may drop all the way down to 7th or 8th because he didn't get the touchdowns. Only time will tell, but I definitely lean more on the side that he's going to get them. I'm super excited about it, so let's go ahead and get into his positive and his negative, even though we brushed on him a little bit already. So the positive is obviously the Antonio Brown vacancy. You have the wide receiver 1 advantage now, so you definitely know, even though if any of you thought it may have been a fluke last year that he got that many targets, he definitely should get them this year because he is the guy, and the touchdowns is where I think he's going to see an increase. And the flip side is that he is the guy now, and so he's going to be seeing a lot more double coverage, which is going to make it a lot more difficult for him. But I think he's talented enough to still get open and make plays, and I personally think it's not going to hurt him that bad at all. I think he's going to thrive. I'm super excited. They were able to put some good pieces around him and draft some good pieces around him to where I think defenses are still going to have to respect some other places on the field. But James Conner is still there as well. I definitely think Juju is still going to be perfectly fine. I'm super excited for him this year. As you can see, I have him as my number 4 wide receiver. So moving on to number 5, my number 5 and number 6 were very, very hard for me to differentiate and try to decide which one I wanted where. Ultimately, this is what I set up, but just to note that so you guys know it was close, my number 5 wide receiver is Julio Jones. So ultimately what it came down to when I tried to sort him and the next guy out was opportunity. Julio Jones is consistently one of the highest targeted receivers in the NFL, which in turn translates to having some of the highest yardage totals that we've ever seen. He is absolutely phenomenal year in and year out. He's Julio Jones. Now, aside from this year, maybe last year where you're starting to see DeAndre Hopkins and OBJ starting to creep their way up into that conversation, the argument of always who's better, Antonio Brown or Julio Jones, I was always on the Julio Jones side because I felt they're both just as talented as each other, but Julio also has the size, and so if I had to take one as a franchise for my team, I would take Julio, but it really depends on the scenario as well because you cannot sleep on what Antonio Brown has done. It is absolutely phenomenal, but I have Julio Jones at my number 5 spot. His downside, obviously, is his health. With his feet injuries, you never know when they're coming. Almost every single week, you feel like you're hearing that he might sit out, he missed practice because of his feet. I don't know. I think more of it's maintenance related than it is him actually hurting and not being able to. I think it's more so preventative. So we'll kind of see how that pans out this year. I think we've already seen a little bit of it in the offseason, so it's something you always have to deal with Julio. You think he's going to sit out, and the next thing you know, he plays. He'll have 3 points going into the 4th quarter, and he'll finish the game with 25 somehow. It makes no sense. He is by far one of the most stud receivers the league has ever seen, and that's why I have him at number 5. Number 6, the one that it was very hard for me to put Julio over, but ultimately I had to. Number 6, we have Michael Thomas. So when we get into the positives of Michael Thomas, the first thing right off the bat that everybody's aware of and everybody knows is he catches almost everything thrown to him. And I don't know if it's more his talent or the fact that Drew Brees is ungodly when it comes to being accurate, but both of those combined, regardless of the reason, it's the same end result. He catches almost everything thrown his way. And so although he receives less targets than the rest of the guys, he is definitely going to catch a higher percentage of them. And so that's why no matter what you do or how you want to try and line things up, Michael Thomas is always going to be in the conversation for top wide receiver in the league. And at any given time, if the touchdowns go up, if the targets go up, then you're going to see tremendous numbers out of him, even better than we've already seen. Now, the negatives to him, I literally couldn't think of any. And so the way I'm going to explain it, because if you're thinking, well, if you didn't have a negative, how is he not your number 1? The only thing I can think of is the fact that he is targeted fewer than the other guys that are on this list, and that's strictly because the Saints are a great running team, so they aren't as pass heavy as some of the teams that these other players are on, and so that ultimately trickles down to having him with less targets, but he makes the most out of every single one that he gets, and that's why he's still here. But ultimately, that's why I have him at my number 6 spot. He absolutely can move up, but I think he's going to finish right here. Only time will tell. He did just get paid, so we'll see how that pans out. Sometimes they elevate, sometimes they kind of flop a little bit because now they're paid and they feel like it doesn't matter. I don't think that's the case with him. Everything I'm seeing is he's a tremendous athlete, absolutely works hard day in and day out. I don't think the money's going to change anything. He's going to get out there and ball out. I'm super excited to see what he can do this year as well. Everybody's been kind of sleeping on Drew Brees. He's fallen down the boards. I don't know why. I think he's going to be just fine again this year, but I don't see him having the season he had last year, but I don't see that as impacting Michael Thomas, and it doesn't look like the ADPs have impacted him either, so it'd be something we'll have to see. I'm super excited for him, and that's why I have him as my number 6 wide receiver this year. Number 7, Odell Beckham Jr. A lot of people have him very high up this year. I've been hearing a lot of talks about how excited everyone is. I'm super excited as well. That being said, I am treading with caution just because of a few reasons, but before we get into that, we're going to go ahead and get into his positives. So obviously the first positive right off the bat is he finally has a great quarterback with Baker Mayfield. He's no longer having Eli throw him the ball, or at least attempting to throw him the ball. He has actually got a solid, great young quarterback with a cannon and one of the most accurate college quarterbacks we have ever seen, and it looks like it's translated into the NFL. And some of the videos I've seen with them connecting in camp, they're spot on. They're looking great. I'm super excited to see what Odell has in store this year. The only reason I'm a little bit hesitant on him, of course, is it's a new area, a new team, and there's a lot of talent around him, a lot more than he was ever used to in New York. He's got Jarvis Landry, somebody that is no joke of a wide receiver, even though he's fallen down boards this year because of Odell. Jarvis Landry, do not forget, is one of the best receivers in this league. So he's not one to count out, and so that could eat into Odell a little bit. You also have David Njoku, a great young tight end. I don't think Nick Chubb is threatening any of Odell's targets. That being said, when Kareem Hunt comes back off of suspension with how good he is in the passing game, you may see some stuff come that way as well. And so it's really tough to kind of see what he may end up doing. Everybody wants to say, and I'm with them, that Odell is going to go through the roof this year with his numbers because of having Baker and a way better offense, and a lot of people aren't going to just focus on him. But I think they have a lot of options there, and that's why I have him down at my 7th spot. But he absolutely can finish higher. I just don't think he will. I do still think he's going to be great. I think this is a great year for wide receivers, so finishing 7th is not going to be bad. I am super excited to see what he has in store. If he goes out and absolutely kills it this year, I think you can pretty much etch it in stone that he is going to be one of the top drafted next year because of the situation he's in now. It's just this year nobody's really sure, and that's why he's fallen a little bit. I think he's a steal in the 2nd round, so you absolutely jump all over that if you get that opportunity. Nonetheless, with all of those question marks, I don't think they're very big question marks because I think he's still going to kill it. That is why I have him at my 7th spot. Number 8. I juggled with this one a little bit, and this is going to make some people mad. Other people are going to agree with it. My number 8 now was hard to differentiate as well. I picked 3rd in my home league, which is just a 10-man league. I have a few other leagues that I'm in that are 12-man, but in this 10-man league, the problem I'm running into is my 2nd pick comes down to these 2 players, and it was very hard for me to choose between the 2 of them, but ultimately this is the route that I'm going. Number 8, I have Mike Evans. So first things first, right off the bat, I am super excited this year because of the Bruce Arians ran offense that he's going to be in now. I don't think a lot of us, including myself until I actually looked into it, realized how good of a year he had last year. I thought he did good. I didn't realize he did great. It was a fantastic year. And the year before that, he did just as good, and he has done great every year since he's been in the league. The downside and the reason everybody hesitates on him, and the only negative that I have written down here, is the fact that his quarterback is Jameis Winston. I'm not sold on Jameis. I don't think Tampa Bay should be either. I don't know if they think they have their quarterback answer. I have no idea. I don't think they do. I think they should still be looking. Maybe this is his kind of test year to finally settle whether he's going to be or not. A lot of people have faith in him. He's usually a decent fantasy quarterback, but I think all in all, I think you're going to get a career of just okay or just good enough with Jameis Winston. He may at some point turn into something great, and maybe I'm just not seeing that. But that being said, that is the only negative I have for Mike Evans, and I think that's what makes him fall so far in leagues, because if he had a better quarterback or was on a better team, I think a lot of people would be higher on him. That being said, with Bruce Arians there now, hopefully that helps out everyone. And if he's getting any kind of an increase because of it, one can only guess what his numbers may end up looking like, because he is absolutely phenomenal. Now, the only downside to him on top of the Jameis Winston thing is he is not a high catch rate guy. He is a down the field and touchdown guy. So when he does make his catches, they're usually for a lot of yards. He's one of the highest end zone targeted wide receivers in the league, so the opportunities are always there for him. But he's not going to be that guy that gets you 120 catches. He's the guy that gets you anywhere from 80 to 90. So in PPR formats, there are some guys that might slip ahead of him. That being said, with everything going this year, I think to see him hold steady at that 80 to 90, hopefully over 90, and that's what I think he'll have this year. And if that's the case, his yardage that goes along with that, because of how much of them are down the field, is a lot higher than most people at 90 catches. So I'm super excited to see what Mike Evans has in store for us this year. That is why I have him at my 8th spot. Number 9, the one that I always juggled with Mike Evans trying to choose between, is Antonio Brown. Don't get me wrong, I hate putting Antonio Brown at 9th on a wide receiver list. He has been the unanimous number 1 in PPR for years. He ended up somehow pulling ahead and finishing number 1 last year in PPR, mainly because of the touchdowns he gets. The problem with Antonio Brown that everybody is agreeing on is they're not sure what we're going to get from him with him no longer being in Pittsburgh with Big Ben. That is a lot of time and a lot of work put into a relationship between him and a quarterback. Now, I know, I get it, the relationship obviously wasn't very good, but the relationship on the field was fantastic. Their chemistry was through the roof. Big Ben could air it up, and you know when it was coming down, Antonio Brown was going to have it in his hands 20 feet from the nearest guy and scoring a touchdown. It was ridiculous, and I just don't see that with Derek Carr. And so the positives for Antonio Brown, obviously, is like I said, he's been the number 1 receiver in the league for years. And that's hard to argue with. I mean, his talent didn't go anywhere. He's still working insane. Some of his workout videos that you see this summer are nuts. They are every year. He's one of the hardest trainers in the league. And so I don't think his ability is going anywhere. The problem that I have for him is that when you're drafting him, you're drafting Derek Carr. And I don't mean you're literally having to go draft Derek Carr. I'm meaning he is solely dependent on the quarterback being able to do what Big Ben did for him. And I don't see, as much as I'm not a huge Big Ben fan either, I don't hold him and Derek Carr in the same light. Derek Carr was great a few years ago, but he has fallen off some kind of a cliff. Maybe he can work his way back up this year. And so because of that, I'll be the first to admit that I could absolutely 1,000% be wrong about Antonio Brown, and he could shock us like he does every single year to the point where it's really not even a shock once it happens, and finish one of the top guys, if not the top guy. So I could be wrong. I personally don't think I am, though. I think he's going to take a big hit in the touchdown department. I think he's still going to get the targets. I think he's still going to get the volume, the yards, all of that. So he's going to be an insane option. I just don't see the touchdowns being there like we're used to seeing with Antonio Brown. And because of that, I think that's where he takes a hit, and that's why I have him down at my 9th spot. So finishing it off here, I'm going to go ahead and give an honorable mention to somebody that I fought back and forth with my number 10 guy to try and figure out who I wanted here, and that is T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton is not my number 10, but he was almost my number 10. I'm really excited about T.Y. Hilton, but ultimately what it came down to is I think they've got a lot of options there in Indianapolis now, especially with Paris Campbell. I'm super excited about him. We're hearing great things about him. He's still got you got Devin Funchess there now as well. Nyheim Hines, if he stays pretty active in the offense, you got him as well. Marlon Mack's not really a target monster, so you shouldn't have to worry about him hurting T.Y. I love T.Y. Hilton this year. I think he's going to be a great pick, especially if you're getting him in the 3rd round. But ultimately, I had to end up going with my number 10 receiver over him. So my number 10 receiver is Keenan Allen. So right off the bat, Keenan Allen, the comparison I want to make to a running back is David Johnson. And the reason for that is a lot of us drafted David Johnson last year very high, expecting him to do great. And because he didn't finish the number 1 or 2 guy, we all think he sucked. Well, I don't, but a lot of people think that he sucked last year, and that's the narrative. When in all reality, he finished as a running back 10. He was not bad at all. He just underperformed for what our expectations were. And I think that's what hit Keenan Allen. Not counting, obviously, the fact that he took a little bit of an injury at the end of the year. But for the most part, even before that, people were not very happy with Keenan Allen. And that's because the year before that, he finished the number 3 wide receiver in PPR formats. And a lot of us thought we could expect that again. And he didn't do it. And so everybody was super upset and pretty much just thought he sucked. But if you look at his numbers, they were not bad at all. He actually had a really good season last year. It's just it got botched a little bit with the last 3 games because of the injury. But everything I'm hearing out of camp right now is that he is fully healthy, ready to go, no issues at all. And if that's the case, green light on Keenan Allen. But that also is my negative for him, though, is the health. So they say he's healthy, he's explosive and ready to go. And if that's the case, then great. But if he can sustain it, I think you have no worries. But that is your only worry, is if he can't. And so if he ends up getting hurt, obviously it's going to be very difficult for him to finish in the top 10. But if he's healthy and out there going, I absolutely see him as my 10th receiver this year, especially in PPR formats, because that bonus you get with the catches. He is a monster. I think too many people are leaning on the fact that he went off 2 years ago, and we're expecting that again or even better last year, and we just did not see it, and it was overshadowed by some of the other receivers we've seen last year, like Juju and Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams. The list goes on. It was a great year last year for wide receivers, and I think it will be again this year. And I think he got a little bit overshadowed, and everybody compared it to the year before, and so he was just a disappointment all around, and people are leaning a little bit too hard on that because I think he's going to be a great pick this year. You can also get him at the beginning of the 3rd round or the very end of the 2nd, which I think is a great snag, especially with T.Y. right behind him. If you get either one of those guys that late, it's going to be great. But I personally, if I'm coming down to that choice, I'm taking Keenan Allen. He is my number 10 wide receiver. So that has been my top 10 wide receivers. Let's go ahead and run through them one more time. Number 1, we have DeAndre Hopkins. Number 2, we have Devontae Adams. Number 3, we have Tyreek Hill. Number 4, we have Juju Smith-Schuster. Asterisk, I would take Juju over Tyreek Hill because of how you get there with Tyreek Hill. So don't just go off of that alone. Number 5, we have Julio Jones. Number 6, we have Michael Thomas. Number 7, we have Odell Beckham Jr. Number 8, we have Mike Evans. Number 9, we have Antonio Brown. And rounding it out at number 10, we had Keenan Allen. So those are my top 10 wide receivers in the PPR format in the order I think they will finish the year. I do not give you guys a top 10 based on guys that I will take and guys that I will like, because I feel like every single person watching this video is drafting from a different position, and every single one of you is going to have an opportunity at least one of these guys. And so I definitely want to give you guys my top 10 out of all of them, not just the ones that I personally think I will take and not take, because you're going to be put in those positions where you need to decide whether to take one of these guys or not. And so these are my top 10 wide receivers. Be sure to leave some feedback below, those that you agree with, those that you disagree with. I'm always all ears to any kind of criticism or constructive criticism or just feedback in general. I absolutely love hearing it and love responding, so make sure you guys leave some of that below. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get into the Q&A portion of the video. Basically, what I do with this is I go and pull any of my questions that I get from the Q&A forum on Sleeper app if I don't have any submissions. If I pull your name from the forum, I will not say your name. I keep it anonymous because you did not submit it to me. However, that is not the case if you guys submit it in the comment section below, your Q&A, or submit it to me in any other way. But that is the best way to submit your Q&A questions in the comment section, and I will be sure to include them. They always take priority to the questions I find in the forum. That being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Number 1 was a submitted question by Sin City Fantasy. So before I get into his question, make sure you guys go down in the description below and go check his channel out. It is Sin City Fantasy. He does podcasts on fantasy football. He actually was generous enough to invite me over to participate in a mock draft with him and some people from Sleeper. Bunch of great guys that I met. We actually ended up starting a Dynasty League, and I've met even more great people all from that. his takes, to basically simplify it for it, every single pick we picked back to back in that draft, and almost every single pick we sniped each other because we think very, very similar. So if you like my takes and you like my opinions on things, make sure you go check him out because we're very similar. Obviously, we have some things we either disagree on or things we agree on. That's everybody. But he's got some very, very good inputs and takes on certain things. So make sure you guys go check him out. He does a lot of live streams of mock drafts. He's a great guy with great content. Make sure you guys go check him out one more time. Sin City Fantasy. That link is going to be in the description. So let's go ahead and get into his question. I heard him mention this in his stream that he did the other night when I was in that mock draft. So he ended up submitting it to me. He said, in a keeper league, would you take Kerryon Johnson in the 6th, Sonny Michel in the 10th, or Darius Geis in the 17th? So right off the bat, we're going to eliminate Sonny Michel here, and I'm going to explain why. So I'm doing a process of elimination. So if we have Kerryon Johnson in the 6th first versus Sonny Michel in the 10th, I absolutely love Kerryon Johnson. I think he's going to be a beast. Him in the 6th round is a steal and a half. Sonny Michel, you have a lot of question marks, even though in the 10th round is a great pick. I also think Kerryon in the 6th is a great pick, so I'm going to take the Kerryon over Sonny Michel all day. Here's where the complicated part comes in. Darius Geis in the 17th. I am not a Darius Geis fan at all. I don't want him on any team that I have, unless, of course, he fell so far that it had to be worth it, and that's the problem we run into here. Getting to keep him in the 17th round, if he ends up panning out and does really, really well, 17th round, you got somebody that could finish as an RB2 in the 17th round. I don't think he could finish an RB1. Who knows? Some people think he might. I don't see that. I don't even see the RB2. But if he did, and you were able to get that in the 17th round, that is a steal and a half. So this turns into a situational answer. So I'm going to go ahead and give you two scenarios here. First one, it depends on your draft selection. If you are put in a position where you can't get one of those absolutely top dogs, like an Alvin Kamara, a Saquon, a Christian McCaffrey, if Zeke shows up, and Ezekiel Elliott, David Johnson, one of those guys, if you're not able to lock down them and you're forced into taking one of the top wide receivers, I think the pick here is easily Kerryon Johnson because you don't want to miss on getting one of the top guys, and I think you will finish as one of the top guys this year. I'm super excited, especially with them releasing Theo Riddick. He's going to be an absolute monster. Now, on the flip side, if you were able to land one of those top guys, I think you can take the risk on passing on Kerryon Johnson and getting Darius Geis in the 17th round. That is a great pick. Not to mention, you still have a shot at possibly getting Kerryon anyway, because I think he's still even in the 3rd and 4th round. So to get him in the 6th is even better. But if you lock down one of those top guys, I think I'd probably take my chances and try and get Kerryon in the 3rd anyway, with a top wide receiver in the 2nd. And so I think you'll be okay, because then you can also factor in Geis as a 17th round pick. And if it ends up panning out, you did great. You look like a genius. But if you end up having to take one of the top wide receivers first, I absolutely am keeping Kerryon just to make sure that I lock down a really, really solid set of running backs, because your 2nd pick is probably obviously going to be one of the top running backs that you can still get in the 2nd round, like a Joe Mixon or a James Conner or a Damian Williams, something like that. And you pair that up with Kerryon, you're still sitting pretty great at running back. So it's basically situational. If you can get one of the top running backs, I say go Darius Geis and try to get Kerryon anyway. Or if you have to get one of the wide receivers, I say you go the Kerryon route. And like I said, Darius Geis is falling. If you are sold on him for some reason and want to take him in wherever he falls to, then by all means. I'm not a fan of him at all. But in the 17th round, it's hard to just shove that away. So I completely understand the conflict, and those are the situations. And that's what I would do in those certain situations. So it kind of just varies and depends on what kind of a position you're put in. So our question number 2 comes from the Q&A forums on the Sleeper app. Again, if this is your question, be sure to comment below. I don't care that you give your name out. I have them written down right here. Like I said, I don't give them out where you didn't submit these to me. I found them, so I'll leave them anonymous. But the second question is, in full point PPR, do you take Adam Thielen or T.Y. Hilton? And for me, I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's T.Y. Hilton all day long. And I hate that answer. I hate saying that, because the way Adam Thielen started the year last year, I think the first 8 weeks, he was the wide receiver 1. He was a monster, but he fell off a cliff to finish the year. He was like the wide receiver 24 or something like that to finish the year, maybe even worse. He was not impressive at all, and that worries me to the point where I am not comfortable taking him at where he's going, which is above T.Y. Hilton. I definitely take T.Y. Hilton here, and I let Thielen be somebody else's risk that they take, especially being a second round draft pick. So in 4-point PPR, I'm 100% going T.Y. Hilton here. Question number 3. Which Rams wide receiver is the safest pick? This is actually a really good question because this is something that I've had a lot of conversations with different people for. This is another situational one. So right off the bat, for the safest pick, we're eliminating the obvious choice in Cooper Kupp. With that injury, I don't think that's a safe pick at all, especially considering it doesn't seem to hurt his ADP that much, because he's still going in the 6th round, and I think he should be more of an 8th, 9th, 10th round guy because of that injury. Who knows? He may end up being great. I don't think it's going to happen as fast as everybody hopes it does, and so I am completely off of Cooper Kupp this year. If he kills it or something, or it looks like he's going to kill it, try to snag him in a trade or something later on. But drafting, I am completely passing on that. I do not like his value this year, especially with the risk. He is by far, of the 3, the least safe pick. So I go ahead and scratch him off here. So the next 2 that we're looking at is Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods. And this is another situational pick for me. So right off the bat, to answer your question, the safest pick is Brandon Cooks. But I'm going to explain to you why that doesn't necessarily mean he's the one you should take. And so basically, the way I line this up is if you got one of the absolute stud receivers at the beginning, whether it be Hopkins, Adams, Julio, Michael Thomas, all these guys that you know are going to be there for you every single week, and you have no questions or no issues with them at all, I think you're completely fine taking a slight risk. I don't really think he's that risky because he's a great player, but taking the slight risk at Robert Woods because he may end up doing better than Brandon Cooks. But the reason I say that is because if you have to take somebody like Antonio Brown with some question marks being in Oakland, or Mike Evans, somebody that you're not sure on because of Jameis, or maybe your wide receiver 1 is Keenan Allen or T.Y. Hilton, if those guys are your wide receiver 1, I think of the Rams guys, which I definitely want to try and get my hands on one of them, I'm taking Brandon Cooks in that situation because he is the safer pick. He is the most consistent. You know what you're going to get out of him every single year. He's going to get you that 15 points a week, sometimes get you 20. I think Robert Woods has a better opportunity of getting you really high-scoring games, but they're not guaranteed. And obviously nothing's guaranteed, but Brandon Cooks is the closest thing to a guaranteed 12 to 15 points you can get, with closer to 15 to 20. And I absolutely think he's the safest pick. So if your first pick was a little bit of a risk, I think you take the safer guy in Brandon Cooks. If your first pick is a solid lock, I think you can reach on the risk with Robert Woods a little bit. It's not that big of a risk. It's why I kind of emphasize that, because if he ends up panning out, you have an absolute monstrosity of a set of receivers. So I definitely think those are the 2 options there that you should go with. To simplify it, the safest guy is Brandon Cooks, but it doesn't mean you should draft him. It depends on who your other wide receivers are. If they're safe picks, I think you can go Robert Woods. If they're a little risky, I think you go Brandon Cooks. So basically, take that as you will. That is how I plan on handling the Rams wide receiver situation. Cooper Kupp's not even on my board. I don't know why he's going as high as he is. Yes, when he was healthy, he was the top guy, but that injury was no joke. I actually have a picture on my phone from the injury of what it looked like when he went down, just as a reminder to not jump on that hype train for him being healthy and coming back, because it looked rough. So for those of you that are juggling with that, go look that up real quick. Look at his knee when he went down and just go ahead and see how comfortable you are taking him in the 6th round this soon after that injury. So like I said, he may be there ready to go week 1. I don't think he'll be 100% until halfway through the season, if at all, this year. So Cooper Kupp's a no-brainer for me not to take at that value. It's just, I don't think it's good value at all. So safest pick, Brandon Cooks. I think you take Robert Woods if your first pick was safer, though. So that being said, that is our Q&A portion of the video. Be sure to leave any of your Q&A questions that you want in future episodes down in the comment section below. Like I said, they will always take priority. If we end up getting enough of them, we may create a better way for you guys to submit them. But for now, the comment section underneath these videos are absolutely the best places to leave them. So typically, this is the portion of the video where I do my Thorn segment that I created. But just to kind of reiterate and explain kind of what that is, the Thorn was a simplified explanation, is basically the player that was a quote-unquote thorn in the foot of a player that you're really excited for. So basically, the thorn of the year last year was Jamal Williams for me, for how much work he took from Aaron Jones. Had he not been that thorn in Aaron Jones' foot, Aaron Jones would have been an absolutely phenomenal player. And because the season hasn't started yet, we can't do our Thorn of the Week. So this is the part of the video where I would typically be doing that. But just so you guys understand what it is and when I plan on doing it, that will get kicked up going again once the actual NFL season starts. But for now, that portion, that segment of the videos will not be in it. That being said, I would like to announce that I do plan on doing what I like to call positional mock draft live streams. So I'll be doing these from time to time. They will be saved as replays on my channel, so you don't have to worry about catching them live. That being said, it's even more exciting because I can talk to you guys live and kind of run you through what I'm doing. But basically, a simplified explanation of it is I plan on going through an 8-man league, 10-man league, and 12-man league, regular roster formats, full PPR drafts. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be drafting from the one spot in 3 different mock drafts for the 8-man, 10-man, and 12-man leagues in PPR format with a standard roster build, your quarterback, your 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, flex, and so on, and with the kickers and defense, all of that. I'm going to go through 12 rounds to basically kind of explain to you how I would handle things in the draft from each position. Obviously, once you get to 9th, it's only going to be 2. Because you have just the 10-man and the 12-man. And once I get to 11th, I'll probably do the 11th and 12th in the same stream because it's only going to be 2 mock drafts. And a lot of the picks are going to be the same because I like the same guys late. But it kind of gives you a good idea and reacts to different situations that may happen throughout. And there's a few picks at the early on that can completely change the route that your team needs to go. And this is basically to help you make those decisions. So be sure to look out for those. I'm going to be doing them from positions 1 through 12. I will not be doing the 13, 14-man leagues. So hopefully those of you that are in leagues like that can use these to kind of help you out a little bit. But I will just be going all the way up to the 12th position. So be sure to look out for those. Pretty excited to get those started here soon before the season starts. One more time, I want to give Sin City Fantasy a shout out because of all that he did for me, inviting me to that, introducing me to all these people. It was very hospitable, very enjoyable. I really liked his content. You guys definitely should go check it out for yourselves. And for those of you that don't already know him, make sure you tell him that I sent you, just so he knows. And I am super excited to be able to do more stuff with him in the future as time comes. But that being said, make sure you guys go check him out. That link is going to be at the top of the description down below, so make sure you go check him out. All in all, guys, that has been our second podcast of the Fantasy Football Outpost podcast. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. My name is Dallas. You've been watching the Fantasy Football Outpost, and we'll see you. Thanks for watching.